What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA, and this is the box office breakdown. You know this as the scoreboard for the film industry. This is where we take a look at who's hot, who's not, the winners and the losers. We also take a look at the week that just passed along with the week that is to come. And yeah, we already knew that Thor was going to dominate the box office this weekend. It's a Marvel movie, no brainer, no questions about it. Okay, came in with a $302 million global debut, $143 million in the domestic box office. Now, the thing that you have to ask is, could it have done more? Is it meeting up? The thing you have to ask, though, is it living up to its expectations? Is it meeting what the people expected it to do, right? $302 million, no problem at all. That's a great number for any other film out there. But for a Marvel movie, you have to start to look at, okay, are people still feeling this franchise? Yeah, to the tune of $143 million domestically, sure. But if you remember, Doctor Strange did $187 million. And it's arguable that Thor obviously is a much bigger and much more prominent character in the MCU than Doctor Strange was. Nevertheless, this film comes in domestically anyway, about $44 million underneath what Doctor Strange did. So that's the question. What's going on? Maybe we can help make some sense out of all of this. Let's go ahead and check out these numbers in any case. The weekend box office, Thor Love and Thunder hammers a $302 million global debut. So, of course, this is Box Office Pro, where all the movie fans go. So let's check it out. Millions for Mjolnir. Disney and Marvel Studios superhero sequel, Thor Love and Thunder, lit up the sky with the best opening among all four Thor films. Yeah, no kidding. That's not a hard... You know, when you consider, like, where these other films did, that's not like a big feat, especially at this stage of the MCU. Nevertheless, 143 million domestic, 159 million overseas, 302 million globally. It's the 30th opening weekend of all time, number 12 opening weekend amongst MCU titles, and then the number 4 opening weekend of the pandemic era. And then, you know, it kind of gives some more information there saying, yeah, it was only behind really Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, as far as the other Marvel films, which obviously makes sense in this, you know, global pandemic type era. And then it says here it's above the first 3 Thor films, 2 times Thor, 66% above Thor The Dark World, and then 16% above Thor Ragnarok. So yeah, we expected that. You know, I thought it actually would do better because, you know, I was like, well, there are going to be some parents that are going to be kind of like, I don't know if I want to take my kids to see this movie. It seems like there's going to be some kind of risque material in there. And yeah, there was absolutely. They're talking about, they're talking about orgies. And can you just imagine your son tapping you on the shoulder? Hey, Dad, what's an orgy? Like, yeah, like they're talking about that stuff in a Marvel movie. I don't know if that's going to necessarily fly with a lot of parents. So it compares itself to other MCU titles. And yeah, it did pretty good. I think overall, when you consider that, yeah, it was above the Batman, yeah, that's good. It was 23% below Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this is the number here that you got to consider, right? Because Marvel is very, very, like, the phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been very, very shaky, and other people are now starting to talk about it. First, it was just like me and a couple of other folks, but then people more and more and more are starting to say, I don't know if I'm feeling this phase 4 really well. I'll go and check out the movies, but like all of these shows on Disney Plus, I'm not really interested. I still got friends that haven't watched like Shang-Chi and the Eternals, and they're fans of the franchise. They loved Endgame. They loved Infinity War. And they're really not interested in some of these other characters. I thought that Thor would do a little bit better than the 143 that he did. I thought it would come close to that number where Doctor Strange was, because Thor is a known character. This is his 4th film. And you would expect it to do a little bit better than 16% above this $122 million. Original projections had it going up as high as 175. That's about where I thought it would land. Maybe just again a step down from Doctor Strange, but nevertheless, here we are. So we'll get into that in a little bit more when we dig into the numbers. But Minions fell, of course, in its second weekend. Now, the 57% drop is kind of a steep one. I thought it would be a little bit less than that. Not horrible, not 60s and 70s. We've seen movies in those frames. 57% is a decent high drop. A lot of people went and front loaded this thing at the beginning, but it's already made its money back, and I'm pretty sure everybody is excited and happy about where Minions is at, especially the folks down at Universal. But yeah, it did one of the steepest drops, tied with its original Minions, but then, you know, higher than all of the other ones in the Despicable Me franchise. Then it also had other steep drops when compared to other animated sequels, Frozen 2, Finding Dory, Toy Story 4, and then The Incredibles 2. But softer than these opening drops for Sonic, Lion King, and Lightyear. So I think Gru and the Minions are doing just fine. 210 million domestic. Can't sneeze at that. That's really good for a second frame. This film is probably going to close in, maybe not hit a billion, obviously, but probably close in somewhere in that upper range, probably like 900, 800, 900 million. It's already at 400 million in 2 weeks. And this thing is probably going to stay through theaters all the way through the summer. So you're talking about the rest of July and August before it finally hits streaming services worldwide. Overseas, it says there, yeah, it's at 189.8 million, 399.8 million. Might as well just say 400 million right there. And yeah, just opened up in France. And so I feel it still has a few other markets that it can open up in. So I think that that's going to help it out overall. Top Gun Maverick still dominating and flying high. 40% drop, 15.5 million. You consider that this thing came out Memorial Day weekend, right? So that's like over a month and a half ago, and it's still bringing in 15.5 million in a weekend. That is truly, truly impressive, and it's doing great numbers. You gotta just, again, take your hats off to the folks down there at Paramount. They knew what they were doing when they greenlit this film, and it had all of the energy and strength behind it. Now it's sitting at 1.18 billion globally, and that's without China. Yeah, truly impressive. Elvis is still in there, top 4. Right now, it's only made $11 million in its third weekend. And that might be it for Elvis in terms of having a double-digit weekend. Right now, sitting at 11 million. So now you got to start thinking, okay, third weekend down. And usually most people that have wanted to see a film have seen it by its third weekend. Yeah, there's been other competition and other things coming out. But again, if you really wanted to see Elvis, chances are you've already seen it. So now you're going to start seeing bigger drops, more and more people kind of checking out the other films that are out there. With every new weekend, there's new releases. So I think Elvis is going to start to struggle to make a lot more money. Now, it could still become profitable, and we'll check that out when we get to the numbers. But nevertheless, it's going to be tough, and it's going to need some help from the overseas markets. And then finally, we're talking about Jurassic World Dominion, still bringing in decent amounts of money, $8.4 million. You got to really, you know, again, and they're talking about it, you know, in a negative light. It says, yeah, this frame has been dropping. It's been dropping fairly fast. People aren't really going out to check it out in an overabundant amount. But nevertheless, $874 million. I didn't think it was going to do that well. I thought that it would get close to it, but it's going to surpass my expectations. So I'm calling that a win. China, of course, those folks over there are loving the film. And overall, I think Jurassic World Dominion, you know, you got to call it a success story. Will it hit $1 billion? That's a good question. You know, sitting at 874, it's about $125 million away. I mean, that's going to be tough. Every weekend, it's going to continue to drop a little bit more and more and more. And then throughout the week, it's not really picking up a lot of traffic. So chances are it's not going to get to that $1 billion mark. But you never know, depending on, you know, certain countries and different things happening. You know, it might actually, if they leave it in theaters long enough, it might actually come up there and touch up on that billion. So we'll see what's happening with that. But that'll do it for the quick overview of the top 5 in the box office. Let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers we got this week and see what else we can figure out. All right, and here we go. The top 10 for the weekend. Let's check it out and see what we got. Number 1, of course, is Thor at $143 million, taking the top spot, followed by Minions, The Rise of Gru at $45 million. Top Gun Maverick still doing its thing. Number 3, $15 million this weekend. Elvis coming in at number 4 with $11 million. And then finally, Jurassic World Dominion coming in at $8.4 million. So following that, we got the Black Phone at $7.6 million. Lightyear all the way down to number 7. Woo! That's a big drop for Lightyear, folks. You guys just got to start looking at this thing in a different light, because it's really probably going to end up being one of the bigger, huger bombs and disappointments of this year. If it's only bringing in 2.9 million right now, man, we're looking at a huge, hefty loss for this film. The next film, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, kind of opened up limitedly this weekend, and next week it's going to open up wide. It looks like an animated film, so we'll see how that goes. But $340,000 this weekend. Doctor Strange, again, still people, it's on Disney Plus, but people still want to watch it in theaters, so hey, go for it. $262,000. And then finally, Mr. Malcolm's List at $245K. All right, so here we go with the top 5 week over week drops. Minions, The Rise of Gru, had a 57% drop. Like I said, pretty hefty, but not horrible, not terrible, but that's pretty hefty. And you got to figure a lot of people probably went to see other films like Thor, Love and Thunder after seeing Minions. So yeah, this one is going to be one of those films that kind of rides it out with a long box office run, probably all the way through August. You know, the folks down at Universal and Illumination, they're definitely smart. They know how to get the most out of a film. So I expect this film to have a long box office run. Will it hit $1 billion? That remains to be seen. Top Gun and Elvis both had a 40% drop this particular weekend. Jurassic World Dominion with a 48% drop. And then finally, The Black Phone, 37% drop. The only horror film really in theaters right now. So it's going to experience some of those smaller drops, and it's going to help it a lot. It's going to be really profitable. Doing good. $99 million. Can't sneeze at that. All right. And then we get to the top 10 worldwide. Top Gun Maverick still on top with $1.1 billion. Doctor Strange really hasn't budged. I think they got like another $1 million in there. Nevertheless, $953 million. Jurassic World making some moves, climbing up. It's getting close to that $900 million mark at $876 million. The Batman still there, 7.7. And then, of course, Watergate Bridge at $626 million. Secrets of Dumbledore, Sonic, Uncharted, really unchanged. The last 2 films over there are the ones that are interesting. The Minions, The Rise of Gru, $400 million, you can pretty much say. It's about to pass up all of these other films and jump into 6th place next weekend. And then Thor, Love and Thunder, you know, it's going to be right on its heels. I think these two are going to kind of be chasing each other throughout the rest of their runs. But I think that Minions is going to be really, like, I think Minions is going to outdo Thor. Thor at 302. And, you know, of course, it's a week behind. So it's going to definitely be able to catch up and make up that about $100 million gap. So I think, but the two of these are probably going to be trading places up and down, back and forth throughout the year as we continue on through the summer. And here we go with the top 5, make it or break it. So you see, it's only 3 films this week because most of the films have either broke it and didn't make their money and they're already out of theaters, so no reason to look at them anymore. And then some films have already made it, like The Black Phone. They've hey, we're done, we finished, we made our money, so no reason to track them. They've already become profitable. So here are the 3 films right now that are still hanging out waiting. Obviously, Thor, Love and Thunder just hit theaters, so with $250 million, they need $625 million overall, $302 million right now. So yeah, they're gonna make it. Okay, that's the thing about Thor. It's going to be fine. They're gonna get their numbers, no question asked. I think the real question is how well will Thor do overall? Will Thor, Love and Thunder at least reach Thor Ragnarok numbers, or will it decline? You know, that's a big question, and that's one that I am wondering about right now. So then we go, but let's look at Lightyear for a second. Lightyear, $200 million budget, $500 million break even. Right now, it's sitting at 204 in the worldwide box office. It is, man, and they only did 2 million this weekend. All right, keep that in mind. They only did $2 million. So, you know, if this film was still bringing in double digits, you'd be like, okay, you know, it's still hanging in there. It might do something. 204 million. You know, it might take another 2 months, but it'll get to that 500 million eventually. Nah, it's not going to get there. It's not going to get there because right now, 204 million. This means basically that in order for this film to break even, it would have to do $300 million after this thing has already been out for damn near a month. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If it couldn't do $300 million in the first month, it sure as hell ain't going to do $300 million on the back end. So I think we can just pretty much chalk Lightyear up as a bomb, but we just have to see where the numbers come out. How much of a bomb? And the real question is, because we always look at these numbers to kind of discover where things are at, if studios and their franchises are moving in the right direction. And we can honestly say that whatever they were doing down there at Pixar with Lightyear, it ain't working, okay? And then we can say the same thing in a certain sense with Thor, Love and Thunder. If it doesn't hit the same numbers that Thor Ragnarok hit, it ain't working. They did something wrong. And you can check out all of the reviews that are out there. A lot of them are middling to poor. You know, yeah, it's still got a positive score on Rotten Tomatoes, but I think that this was a big wake-up call for Marvel. If they think that these types of films are going to continue to be successful, they make another Thor Love and Thunder and they do something similar to what they did in this film, I think that they're going to crater. But Elvis, and I know I'm all out of order with this, but Elvis, the last film, is very interesting. Right now it's sitting at $155 million worldwide, needs 213 to break even. And so you're saying, okay, can it break even? It's going to really depend, because right now I think domestically it's doing fine. I think it's doing really good on a domestic level, but it's not doing so hot on the international market. Like, let's take a look at that. So you can see that Elvis is doing $91 million in the domestic market, 64 internationally, 155 worldwide, right? Elvis is going to be fine from a domestic standpoint. I can see Elvis getting to 120, maybe $130 million on the domestic side. So I think that's fine, but it's still going to end up coming up short internationally. They're going to need some more help there. I think another, it's about 65 million away. So I think it can hit it, but it's going to be really close, and it's really going to depend on what's happening worldwide and overseas. But that'll do it. That's for the box office numbers. Let's go ahead and look at what we got coming up next week. All right, so here we go with the release schedule for next week, and we can see there's a couple of limited releases coming up on Wednesday, but then we have on Friday 3 wide releases. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, that got a limited release this weekend, so next week it's going to have a wide release, so that should help it, of course. Then we get Where the Crawdads Sing, and then Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank. That's another one of those animated films with a big all-star voice cast. And it looked interesting, kind of entertaining. I'm not sure how well it's going to do in the box office, but if parents with small kids want to go check out some kind of silly, animated film, it's supposed to be fun for the kids, similar to Minions. I think they'll actually enjoy that. But nevertheless, we'll see how that goes. And folks, that'll do it for the box office breakdown. If you haven't done so already, give this video a like. Definitely appreciate that. Also, subscribe if you enjoyed the channel and you like the material. That way you can keep up with all of the stuff that I'm doing, talking Star Wars, comic books, box office, just doing movie reviews, everything and anything related to entertainment. I'm talking about it. So if you enjoy that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. All right, folks, thanks for watching. See you next time.